Helping leaders and teams shift dysfunctional patterns is some of my favorite work. I love helping teams bust their patterns, identify what the patterns are, and then bust those patterns so that then they can create a habit of creative, collaborative, and effective patterns between leaders and teams. You can overlay a backbone and heart diagnosis on any pattern. Backbone and heart are always at play. The question is whether they are balanced or not. If a pattern is non-productive, dysfunctional, or destructive, you can pretty much bet that people are unbalanced in their expression of backbone and heart. If a pattern results in more creativity, collaboration, functionality, and effectiveness, backbone and heart are balanced. There are all kinds of patterns that you can learn to see and identify. They are really endless. And there are some classic ones that occur repeatedly when human beings relate to each other. When I talk about patterns, I'm most often referring to the patterns that are co-created between a leader and their team. So how are leader and team co-creating their pattern? Of course, they blame each other for it, but this is being co-created. What is the leader doing that triggers the team to do what they do? And what is the team doing that triggers the leader to do what they do? When the team says, well, the leader made us do this, that's only part of the story because there's something they're doing that is co-creating an effect and an action in the leader. And then the leader, of course, is saying, well, the team made me do that. A typical dysfunctional pattern is a leader who demands command and control, and the team complies. But the leader doesn't like compliance. I had a client like this. It drove her crazy. This team is so passive. I have to tell them to do everything. They only do what I'm telling them to do. But she was so demanding that they just ran off and complied with her demands. You could think that the team was making her be demanding and directive, but on the other hand, she was so demanding that she gave no room for them to show that they had creativity, that they could have independent thinking, that they could initiate. So her demand and their compliance was an ineffective pattern. On the extreme other end, the leader can beg and the team can refuse. In terms of power, the first leader is being too command and control. On the second leader, ask, beg, and the team refusing, that's a leader who is not using their authority at all. So there's a leader who will demand and punish people if they don't comply, or there is a leader who asks, and if people refuse, then the leader acts like, oh well, I guess we're not doing it. The middle functional pattern is to expect with consequence. If you don't do it, there's a consequence to it. This is more than me asking. The leader expects, and the team performs to the expectation. There are other patterns that aren't on the authority continuum, but how humans relate to each other that can be dysfunctional and get in the way of productivity. You could have what's called mirroring. Each side is doing the same action. The leader blames the team and the team blames back. Or the leader avoids conflict and the team avoids conflict. Or each side can do the opposite from each other. The leader blames and the team defends. Or the leader chases and the team retreats. Whether it's mirroring or opposite responses, each side is contributing to the response on the other side. Other common patterns are leader overfunctions and the team underfunctions. The leader underfunctions and the team overfunctions. The leader proposes and the team deflects. The leader deflects what the team proposes. Patterns not only have a habitual quality to them, routinely operating on autopilot, they also can be addictive. No matter which side of the pattern we're on, we think, well, maybe if I do the same thing I've done 96 times before, explain why it would be good for them to do this task, maybe then they'll change their behavior and do it. It can be very hard to break that addictive thinking that leads to endless repetition of the dysfunctional pattern. If you want to understand patterns, watch movies and TV series. Watch stories of people interacting. See if you can identify the patterns between them, particularly when there is a conflict. What is she doing that co-creates what he's doing? And what is he doing that co-creates what she is doing? How are they reinforcing both sides? And One of the best sources for learning how to identify patterns are soap operas, whether they're daytime or nighttime shows. What's so great about it is that their characters keep repeating the same patterns over and over again, so that you could watch like a long series or one of the soap operas that go on for, like the daytime shows that go on forever. You could watch a few shows, identify the pattern, step away for 3 months, come back, and they're doing the same pattern. So if you're afraid that you miss what are the two sides of a pattern between a leader and a team, watch soap operas, because they give you plenty of opportunities to identify what both sides of the pattern are, which is great because, when leaders and teams are stuck in patterns, if you miss it the first couple of times, it's okay because they will keep doing it. Just like a soap opera. We're all living in a soap opera in terms of the patterns that we keep co-creating. So you've got plenty of opportunities to identify these patterns between the leaders and the teams that you're working with. If you want the more advanced level of pattern identification, see if, when you gather with your extended family at a reunion or a holiday, see if you can identify patterns that are going on between subgroups of people. Sometimes it's easy to identify half of the pattern that someone else is doing, but can we identify our part of that pattern when we are a member of that subgroup? And the truly black belt level of pattern identification is when you can identify both sides of the pattern that you are in with someone else, and there is a conflict, or something important is at stake, or there is something you are afraid of losing. When the emotional intensity goes up, patterns kick in for sure, but that's when it gets very hard for us to see our side of the co-creation. So far, we've only talked about learning to identify patterns. There's also the work of shifting them. Once you've identified them, what do you do about it? If you are interested in learning more about both identifying patterns and changing them, you can get my short on-demand pattern shift course to learn more. In the meantime, happy pattern hunting!